Jim the Ape Want Proof. Hello again, humans. It is I, Jim the Ape, and despite how much fun I had making my last video and the positive reception it got from the few people who watched it and commented, I'm glad not to be singing this time around. Now, full disclosure, the video I'm responding to is an old one by internet standards. It was uploaded about a year or two ago, and I should have been aware of its existence at the time since Armored Skeptic made a response to it that I probably watched. But recently, someone I follow on Twitter liked someone else's response to the same video, and the automated tweet about it caught my eye, and I was at least reminded of its existence. That may or may not matter to you, but I felt the need to explain because I much prefer to respond to fresh stupidity rather than old stuff. Now, oddly enough, I had planned on responding to this guy twice before, but both times a funny thing happened when I tried to listen to his videos. Basically, both times the video in question made my brain go on mute mode, as I like to call it. In other words, my ears were hearing everything he was saying, and I even understood on some basic level what his points were, but my brain wasn't firing back any rebuttals or witty comebacks as it usually does. It was almost as if his voice had bored my brain to death. And then, when I finally realized that there was a video by this guy that I could actually pay enough attention to in order to make a response to it, I searched it up on YouTube and I happened to catch in the search results a completely different video that almost made me spit out my drink. It was an interview that some other YouTuber had done with the person I'm going to be responding to today, and the thumbnail said, "Meeting the Legend." And upon reading that, I may have had a stroke. It baffles me to think that anyone could consider the boring, crotchety old fuck that you're about to hear a legend of any kind. But I want you to keep that in mind as you listen to his rambling nonsense. So, before anyone points their "no you" finger at me for taking this long to intro the video, let's just get started. You know, for a video with the title MGTOW and the cancer of porn on society, this intro certainly has some nice shots of sexy women in their underwear. I'm definitely not complaining, it's just that it undermines the point you're trying to make before you've even started speaking.
Time was when a lady was insecure about her looks, she'd go get a nose job or silicone breast implants.
Oh great, here comes another "back in my day" speech from an old fogey who you could just imagine shouting, "Get off my lawn, you damn kids!" But even more important than that is the fact that with your very first sentence, you're putting plastic surgery on the favorable side of a comparison, and yet this whole video is supposed to be a screed against porn. Well, I've got some bad news for you. A lot of porn stars get plastic surgery, as is their prerogative, and sometimes it really enhances their attractiveness. Of course, other times it makes them look like fake blow-up dolls that somehow gain sentience, but hey, you can't win them all.
But with the saturation of our planet in hardcore porn, since the rise of the internet and especially broadband connections, women are looking for more unconventional beauty fixes these days.
Oh my god, you really are about to go on a rant about these damn kids today with their broadband internet connections, aren't you? And as for unconventional beauty fixes, I have some questions. By whose standards are they unconventional? What is so conventional about nose jobs and boob jobs by comparison? And, perhaps most importantly, how the fuck are the methods women undertake to modify their bodies to their liking any of your goddamn business?
Increasingly popular procedures sees young women bleaching their anus.
And your videos make me want to drink bleach through my anus. What's your fucking point?
As well as those that are in search of the perfect vagina, seeking to beautify their genitals with a labiaplasty.
At least they have the fucking choice whether or not their genitals get mutilated.
In fact, the ever-ready and accessible pornography in daily life has even seen most sexually active women under 40 mimicking porn stars of old.
That's just specific enough to sound like it might be in connection with a study, but I'm too fucking lazy to look into it to see if it is, and I really don't care, because I'm still waiting to hear your argument as to why that's a bad thing.
Pre-mid-1990s, women with shaved genitals was a thing one would only see in fetish pornography or in Turkish women. Porn and its ready access via computers have changed social courting as well as grooming customs of women and men throughout the West and beyond.
Wait, so you mean to tell me that trends in fashion, sexuality, and social norms change over time? Stop the presses and alert the media! I want round-the-clock CNN coverage on this one!
Every study I have ever come across with regards to pornography came to the same conclusion, that pornography is not good for people psychologically and can also be addictive. And like other addictions, provides diminishing returns, prompting the user to increase the dose with more extreme content.
First of all, do you need me to list off all the other things in this world that can also become addictions? Because if you do, we'll literally be here all day. Secondly, I question your statement about every study you've ever come across agreeing that porn is bad, okay? Because I could swear I've seen studies that conclude that more access to porn decreases violent sex crimes due to it giving people a safe and consequence-free outlet for their sexual urges. Yeah, you might not want to get all your sources from Fight the New Drug or whatever other explicitly anti-porn biased sources there are out there. And lastly, I can tell you that, in my personal experience at least, your statement about diminishing returns is simply untrue. I've been watching porn almost every day for at least a decade now, and there has been no significant increase in the aggressiveness of the content that is required to get me off. Sure, I've explored different fetishes and kinks to figure out which ones I'm into and which ones I'm not, but the basic, arguably vanilla scenes of just one man and one woman having sex in a way that is not particularly extreme still gets the job done. So either your statement is completely false, or I am not addicted to porn and therefore you could argue that it doesn't apply to me.
But as our Grindr, Tinder using, shaved clam sporting, Brazilian fart porn consuming, thrice fapping daily porn soaked reality
that has got to be the single most head-scratching, eyebrow-raising, chin-stroking, head-tilting, mind-numbing piece of WTF word salad clusterfuck verbal vomit I have ever heard in my entire life. Let's break this down, shall we? Grindr and Tinder are hookup apps. They have nothing to do with porn. Again, women shaving their bodies is none of your fucking business, and I don't know why you're complaining about it. Brazilian fart porn is an extremely specific genre that I didn't even know existed until you mentioned it. Thanks for that, by the way. I'm kind of curious about it now. But how the fuck can reality be soaked in porn? The closest thing I could think of, at least in the literal sense, is everywhere being soaked in genitally ejaculated fluids from all the rampant fucking. And last but not least, fapping 3 times a day is way off the mark. It's got to be at least 10.
It really was only a matter of time until social scientists came along and explained how being drenched in porn is actually a good thing.
I would say that it is, of course, but now is the part of the video where I'm just gonna lay back, relax, not give 2 flying fucks if the following clip is too long to avoid some kind of content ID thing, and listen to Black Pigeon argue against himself by reading some other guy's words and then not really doing anything to refute them. You viewers should get some popcorn. It's really quite a spectacle of self-refutation.
According to clinical psychologist David J. Lay, only a tiny minority, less than 1% of people, experience life consequences or problems due to their sexual behaviors. But between 7 to 13% of people worry about controlling their sexual behaviors. He claims that people who identify as porn addicts don't actually watch more porn than other people, they just feel worse about it.
Okay, I am actually going to interject here for a moment to say that this is also true. And do you know who puts the most social stigma on porn and by extension makes the average porn user feel like they're an addict who needs help? Religion. And for those of you who don't know, Black Pigeon here advocates for religion over atheism because he's a Christian, I think. But regardless, this is another thing I know from personal experience. That is, if I can break character for a moment while still displaying my avatar on screen because I'm fucking lazy. You see, I was also a Christian for a while, mostly for social reasons, and during that time, I was made to feel like I was transgressing against an all-powerful being who sent his son to die for me so that I could be forgiven for said transgression. But over time, I came to realize 2 very important things. The first was that watching porn was perfectly normal, as it is nothing more than a technologically enhanced version of following the very natural human instinct to have sex, which is the very basic basis of our existence as a species. The second thing I realized was that the aforementioned all-powerful being was a concept fabricated by primitive man out of ignorance and fear, which was then used at times as a scare tactic to control people's behavior, and at other times as a safety blanket in the face of the unknown. In other words, God not real.
And he goes further. He states consistently these struggles are traced back to the beliefs that people hold about sex, masturbation, and porn. These are the beliefs and values these people were taught in school, in abstinence-only education, at home, by parents scared to talk to their kids about sex, and at church, where any sex other than heterosexual monogamy has been condemned.
Yeah, and it sounds like your objection to that is simply the fact that it goes against more traditional values. And I'm not trying to make a straw man here, but I just want to point out that another kind of people who use traditionalism as an argument is the anti-gay crowd who want to stand in the way of the LGBT community having equal rights because it offends their simple-minded and archaic sensibilities.
He argues that porn can provide many benefits to the user if they examine their values, change their behaviors, and the onion, watch more porn.
That sounds good. Oh, I'm sorry, were you saying something? I was distracted by your visuals. They're nice visuals.
Why watch more porn? Well, according to Lay, watching porn makes men more egalitarian, more supportive of women and men sharing roles and work, less accepting of gender-based discrimination. They also become more accepting of sexual diversity and less stigmatizing toward homosexuality. They become less religious and may even experience more crisis of faith. Enjoying porn leads to people changing their beliefs about sex and gender, and in some cases rejecting the dogmatically rigid sex gender values they were taught in church.
There you go again, making my argument for me. Not only did you just describe me to a T, but you also failed to mention how any of that is a bad thing despite reading it in an intonation that implies that it is. Now, one might argue that you haven't gotten to your proof that porn is bad yet, but I've seen your video all the way through, and, well, let's just say that I don't believe that you ever did.
So, in effect, yet again, another social scientist is espousing values that reject traditional gender roles, speak of causing a crisis of faith in people as a side benefit of porn, and celebrates people rejecting the teachings of the church. Slyly, no word on mosque, synagogue, or temple.
Oh great, now this video won't be monetized. Thanks for that, you Nazi! Who am I kidding? My whole channel has been demonetized, and even if it wasn't, this video sure as hell would be. Anyway, those are all different kinds of churches, dickhead. Therefore, yes, porn leads to people letting go of that archaic bullshit too. And again, you say that all very smugly, like we're just supposed to accept that you're right, but you haven't done jack shit to back up any of your positions yet. I know you're getting to what you think is proof, but the way you're talking now, I'd say you're putting the smug cart before the scientific horse.
Reprogramming ourselves to dismiss our shame and dispense of any social values as they pertain to sexuality that have incidentally held our society together for millennia.
You know what's really held our society together for millennia? Fucking. Without fucking, none of us would even exist. And do you know what porn is? It's fucking, but recorded on video. So to me, rejecting porn as being bad for society is just as fucking retarded as saying that you can't or shouldn't look at the idealized pictures of food on menus and television commercials because that's bad for society. The real thing is a fundamental part of your existence, so how in the fuck is an idealized representation of it going to destroy society?
And after we do all of this, watching porn will make our society better.
Make America porn again!
Well, whether intended or not, these arguments and the results they engender are fairly consistent when it comes to cultural Marxists and their desire for utopia.
Okay, my brain started to do that mute mode thing again. I'm pretty sure what you said there was just pretentious nonsense that doesn't actually mean anything. You just want people to think that it does. But I'll say this. I've heard the term cultural Marxist thrown around quite a bit, and I'm starting to think that there isn't really a solid definition of what it is, and it's more so just a buzzword that people on the right came up with to use as an insult for people on the left while making themselves sound more intelligent than they actually are. If it ever had a meaning, it's probably lost it by now.
Broken families, loose relationships, malleable minds, and shattered societies.
Yeah, I'm sure those exact things are the actual intentions of every single cultural Marxist. They're always talking about how it's their explicitly stated goal to destroy the family unit, corrupt the youth with a lack of morals, and degrade society to a crumbling ruin. You really cracked the case wide open on that one, didn't you, shitlock?
But where social science gives contradictory advice, neuroscience is clear. Neuroscience now knows that willpower is a function of the prefrontal lobes of the brain. Scientific studies have also confirmed that using porn over and over actually reshapes these areas of the brain, literally eroding our willpower and our moral compass.
Okay, so now you finally got to the part where you're almost providing evidence, but there still are a lot of problems with your argument. First off, what you're describing there are the neurological effects of any addiction. Literally replace the word porn with drugs or alcohol or anything else that you can be addicted to, and it's just as true for any of them. So at best, porn is no different than any other potential addiction. Also, I'd like to point out that while willpower can be somewhat objectively defined as a person's ability to resist the urge to consume a specific product, a moral compass is a far more subjective concept. Granted, in society, we have what I refer to as intersubjective morals agreed upon by most people, but that by no means makes morals scientifically verifiable.
Neuroscientists call this hypofrontality. Hypofrontality is a state in which there is decreased blood flow to the prefrontal lobes of the brain. Hypofrontality is observed in schizophrenia patients and is also observed in all manner of addictions.
Are you saying all addicts are schizophrenic? How very ableist of you.
The porn-addicted brain has trouble thinking logically. When impulses and desire come from the midbrain instead of being moderated, the brain feels these desires are compelling needs.
Let me fix that for you. The religion-addled brain has trouble thinking logically. When impulses and desires come from the emotional center of the brain, instead of being critically analyzed, the brain feels these desires as compelling needs.
Well, to bring the prefrontal lobes back into working order, a two-pronged attack is needed. One, the old neural pathways must be starved, and two, new neural pathways must be built and fed, increasing dopamine levels in a way that builds up the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's how the treatment for drug addiction goes. Oh wait, I forgot that religion got its claws into that program as well.
As the male of our species, it is our instinct to compete for females, the same way lions, buffaloes, and indeed pigeons do.
You forgot gorillas, you speciesist fuck.
Watching porn affects your mind and redirects your natural instincts. It is also a great compensation for those that are living the men going their own way lifestyle.
You're about to shit on MGTOW, aren't you? Well, I can't stop you because this is a pre-recorded video, but you should know that while I don't really identify as a MGTOW personally due to some of the things I've heard people who do saying in defense of the label, I agree with the core philosophy of MGTOW. Basically, it's the philosophy of self-determinism and individuality, of refusing to let society tell you that you simply being a man means you owe a goddamn thing to anybody. And that means not just rejecting the responsibilities towards women that society expects men to fulfill, but also the stupid macho bullshit that other men put on you. Like Gavin McInnes saying, "Video games are for children, go build a table," or whatever he said in that video that one time.
As these men, whose natural urges are satiated by a life of porn consumption, end up becoming genetic dead ends.
Again, you say that like it's a bad thing without proving that it is. Overpopulation is a thing, and resources are limited. Thanos was right about the problem, but unethical in his solution. The not evil way to solve this issue is by encouraging people who already don't want to have kids that that's okay, instead of stigmatizing childless couples and people who want to stay single in adulthood. It also couldn't hurt to incentivize people who are on the fence about it with some kind of tax breaks or some kind of legal reward for not having kids. That way, people who want to have kids can continue to have them, but those who don't want to aren't made to feel like they have to. And I realize that a big part of that is less about a tangible legal change and more about a change in societal norms and attitudes, but hey, a guy can dream.
And society gets ever more frail, with entire sections of men essentially checking out. A new bill that has been proposed in the UK looks to censor what it terms unconventional sexual activities. Things like spanking and the 4-finger rule would apply, which limits the number of digits that can be placed into any orifice while on video.
I'm sorry, but if spanking and 4 fingers in an orifice are unconventional sexual activities to you, you are fucking vanilla as fuck. And that's not specifically directed at you, black pig shit, but somehow I feel that it still does apply to you.
I am not, however, for the government getting involved in what people can or cannot read, hear, or see.
Finally, you said something I can agree with. Unfortunately, it's undercut by all of your previous attempts at an argument against porn, and that's only going to get worse in a minute.
But personally, eliminating porn from your life is a simple and very healthy thing anyone can do to make their life better.
Yeah, I've tried life without porn for brief periods of time in the past, and I can say unequivocally that my life is about 1,000,000 times better with porn than without it.
Unlimited, endless, and always accessible porn is cancer.
No, you.
On individuals as well as any society that normalizes it.
I would much rather live in a society that is open about sexuality and sees porn as being even more normal than this society already does. So pretty much the only thing I would change is make it something that you don't have to keep behind closed doors or spare the details of when you're talking amongst other adults.
But them be the responsibilities of living in, well, semi-free societies. And one last tip, most academics in the social sciences are degenerate.
Break it down! See what I mean about undermining your whole I'm against government censorship thing? Because that may still be technically true, but at the same time, you're willing to dismiss an entire field of academic study because you label the people in it as degenerates. To which I would ask, by what standard other than your own subjective opinion? And I would also ask how them being degenerates has anything to do with their positions or their arguments being right or wrong. And the more I think about it, you using the word degenerate just kind of proves what I've been saying all along. You're a crotchety old fogey telling these damn kids today to get off your lawn.
And as I alluded to at the beginning, always take with a grain of salt anything they say that involves the destruction of values that have held families and society together for millennia.
Also, take with a massive grain of salt anything said by someone spewing vague nonsense about traditional values that hold families and society together, because whether it's something tangible or not, they're probably trying to sell you something. Whereas I just don't give a shit what you do with your life as long as you aren't hurting anybody. So fap away! And don't listen to this pretentious prick. Tradition doesn't mean shit, and if anything has been holding society together for millennia, it's our mutual love of fucking. And that's proof positive that nature itself is pro-porn. Anyway, I hope this video didn't turn out too long. I can never tell until it's fully edited, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it around on social media. I always appreciate that. If you like my content, please make sure you're subscribed and click the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Follow me on Twitter for occasional shitposting and on BitChute for early video uploads. And last but not least, if you really enjoy my content, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It is literally the only way I can make money from my videos, and my job is killing me lately. Hopefully not literally. Any amount you can spare would be greatly appreciated. Plus, it would also motivate me to make content more often. As always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time. Stay great, apes.
think you can tell me what to do? You know who you're talking to?